Hello and welcome everyone to episode 49 of One Piece at a Time, the One Piece read-through podcast where we read and discuss 5 chapters of the One Piece manga each and every week. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host and freelance letterer at Shonen Jump, Brandon Bovia. How you doing, Brandon?
How's it going, everybody? I am, of course, the English letterer for manga like Dragon Ball Super, Kaiju Number 8, and one of the Naruto spin-offs currently running. Just real quick, since last time we recorded this, we got a trailer drop for the Kaiju Number 8 anime, and I was just drooling.
I did catch that little teaser, and it's like, ooh, that does look interesting. We got a lot of stuff relating to you right now because Super came back.
yeah, Super came back. We're doing a prequel to Superhero. Seeing Goten and Trunks in action it's really fun, and we're just like seeing sort of like the timeline kind of move forward is really, really fascinating.
Yeah, having them grow up and Trunks all nervous about asking Mai out.
Yeah, which I mean, she's like twice his age.
I know. As many people point out, she's like 60.
Weird. Yeah, it's weird.
If you want to know what Mai should look like, watch the beginning of Dragon Ball GT.
Yeah, it's just like, oh dear. Oh, that's so weird. Yeah. I don't know if I like that still.
No.
It was weird in the Goku Black arc. They did that too, but he was like, they were like little kids, but I'm like, she's still I'm not going to get into that whole can of worms.
Yeah, that's a weird can of worms that we all of a sudden got into.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It's weird, and they should stop doing it.
Yeah.
Stop making it a thing.
Well, I've seen people hopeful that it's like, oh, please just have her not be interested anymore.
Yeah.
Like he's smitten, but she's like, no, this is not right.
Let's just put a pin in that. Like, no more.
They found their outs. That's all it is.
Yes.
That's all we need.
Yeah.
Oh God. Anyway, we're here to talk about One Piece, and man, ready for some lore?
Oh, I'm always ready for some lore.
We went from pirate hijinks to just some plain old lore, and might be a bit dense as we were talking about before this. So let's just jump right into it with chapter 226, Shoujo, the Salvage King of the Sea Floor. And we got another spread, this time with Nami, Robin, and Chopper. And we actually have some French in here, and I actually did translate it, just simple Google Translate. And it actually means there are still plenty of things that I want, which, boy, that's basically Nami talking right now because she has that whole pile of presents next to her.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if it's that common where we get like color spreads that doesn't involve the whole crew. I love this peek at just seeing Nami, Robin, and Chopper just kind of all going out shopping and having a nice day out.
Yeah, it's cool to see the two of them together. We're so used to seeing Nami hang out with Vivi that it's like, okay, establishing the dynamic of her being with Robin. Good stuff. Mm-hmm. We begin properly with the three of them returning to the Going Merry, and everybody freaking out. It's like, oh God, you guys are wounded. What happened? And immediately have to have a gag because Chopper's calling out, call a doctor.
Call a doctor, yes. Of course, it's very fun, very cute.
And it also, I think, goes to show just how minor this beating was in the grand scheme because they both look fine. You just have to clean up the blood, and they're just like, it's whatever.
Yeah, they're good, yeah. I love seeing the parallels. We talked about this last episode where that whole scene was really reflective of the first chapter with Shanks and Luffy, and Shanks kind of, in the bar getting the beer kind of beat over his head. Mm-hmm. And now Nami is in the position that child Luffy was, where, he's like, why didn't you fight back?
Yeah. And she is upset. Like she's
the
best part of this
whole
chapter. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's embarrassed. She wants to blow up the whole town. Zoro points out that she's the one that didn't want them to fight, and now she's like, don't bring up ancient history. And then she yells at Chopper to make him cry because he asked about Skypiea. And then
I love he's just so like, trying to change the subject, trying to, he's just got those sparkles in his eyes. Like, find anything out about Skypiea? And she's just not having it.
I love the bottom panel where she's like, they laughed at me and I didn't say anything funny. Why were they laughing? And Chopper uses the guard boost. Usopp uses his ketchup star. Before I read the ketchup star line, I was like, oh God, she beat him half to death because he looks fully dead.
Like he's playing dead. Yeah.
And then we actually find out what Robin was up to. She was going clothes shopping, and also looking for information about Skypiea, because got to have her back in her cowboy outfit, apparently.
Like, after all this, Robin just, she's coming back here in her cowboy outfit because it looks like she was out shopping for clothes.
And, hey, she was successful. She got clothes, and she got a map of Jaya, where someone told her that the X marks where Jaya's biggest weirdo lives, a guy by the name of Montblanc Cricket. Apparently, he was chased out of town for talking about dreams. So that has a potential. And I actually really like seeing all of Jaya. Like, it just seems to be that one town of Mocktown plus a forest. But the fact that the island kind of looks like two monsters staring at each other is kind of fun.
Yeah, it's sort of like just parallel. I don't know. It's cool that we didn't get this information immediately. So we really just kind of landed at Mocktown and we're like, oh, we're at Jaya. But now we're seeing that there's actually quite a bit more to it.
Mm-hmm. It's not a huge island, but there's more to it than you would think. But hey, speaking of that mouth bay that we saw, we get more as it's time for another weirdo as we see all these guys underneath a boat having their ears out with this sort of sonar system by somebody going woohoo. And by using the echolocation, these guys are actually able to detect what's around. Like, they find a school of fish that they can try to bring up. They realize that the Going Merry is actually coming towards them.
Yeah.
It's neat. It's unique. But also, like, I'll be honest, this character did nothing for me when I was reading this.
Yeah.
It seems repetitious from what we just did.
Yeah. I mean, it is... I'm glad, as we'll see here in a bit, like, we don't dwell on it for too long, thankfully. I was already kind of tired of Masira's bit by the time we were done with him. Mm-hmm. So we're just kind of like, all right, yeah, we got another one of these. We can't just get from point A to point B without anything happening. So here's our sort of little bit.
Yeah, and that's when we find, well, Shoujo, the Salvage King of the Sea Floor, who has a bounty of 36 million berries.
Yeah,
and I love how they ask, like, what species are you? I'm a human, fool.
Yeah, though I do love just a couple little bit about shoujo, because I was like, so is it a pun on shoujo, like for like girl, which means girl in Japanese, and he's got like he brags about like how he's never cut his hair in his life, so he's got like this long like Goldilocks hair. But I looked into it, and so his name is spelled with like both a long sho and a long jo, which apparently means orangutan, and it also can refer to a mythological ape-like creature. His sail also has it says Mori no Hito on it, which just means like forest, like person of the forest, and he has the kanji for forest on his belt. So he's a lot to go in here.
Yeah, I've learned that if you learn Japanese and start looking at a lot of character names, they're all just puns.
They're all puns.
That's all. That's all.
Yeah. My one, because I find all this trivia way more interesting than Shoujo himself. But like, apparently he was in one of the video games from the 4Kids era. And in that, they spelled his name like Shoujo, but like Joe is in Joe.
Oh my God.
I was just like, sure, why not?
All right, whatever.
But it's sort of cool that they have like localized names for characters they never got to.
Right.
I think there might be a few more from upcoming characters since the dub stopped after Alabasta.
Right. But yeah, we find out that Jojo is the brother of Masira, and he was upset to learn that Luffy kicked his butt, but hey, he's still alive. But he wants to get revenge, so he used his Havoc sonar with his microphone to start ripping up the planks of woods. And you think, oh no, not the Mary again. But it turns out to be his own ship.
It really, there's just, this arc in particular, the Mary has just been going through it. This poor thing.
That image in the top left where it was Usopp screaming about all the repairs being ruined, and you see the Mary is like, how is this thing still floating? There are so many holes in this ship.
It's rough. Man.
That poor thing. That's really all it comes down to.
I did want to, like, talking about Shoujo's kind of, like, microphone gimmick, kind of a sonar gimmick, which, not a devil fruit, by the way. That's just a thing he can do. At least
it seems like it. I think it's just a thing they can do, and they just happen to look like monkeys, even though they're human. So there's no, like, monkey fruit or anything.
Yeah, or any sort of like voice fruit or sonar fruit. I don't know. But I was going to compliment how sort of like how cool the, having the guys underwater all, kind of just the whole sonar thing is cool. But then you see him breaking his own ship with his own voice, and you're like, all right, this guy's an idiot.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Both him and Masira are impressive in their own ways. But they're idiots, which,
yes.
Okay, that's common for One Piece. That's just how it goes.
yes, it is.
Unfortunately, we don't spend as much time with Shoujo as we did with Masira.
Yeah. Moving right along, thankfully.
Yeah. We got the people of Mocktown talking once again, where they're all complimenting Robin and how she was, just getting information, and how she got information on this cricket. Basically, Bellamy here hears about him owning some gold bullion, and that gets him interested, and that's how we end the chapter. It's like, okay, Bellamy's not done.
Yeah. I like one of the goons on the previous page was like talking about Robin. She literally had us all in the palm of her hand. Makes me think that there was some interrogation going down.
Yeah, it kind of feels like it.
I was like, and maybe he just didn't want to admit it.
And he does say she was strong, so
yeah. Like, all right, yeah, but it's like we're getting Bellamy's moving into action here.
Looks like it. Well, it would be the end, but we actually got a popularity poll here. Our second one.
I love it when they have these, and God, over 50,000 votes cast for whenever this had to have been like 2002, 2003,
something like that. It's like still relatively early in its run, and seeing all this, and naturally Luffy's number one, but honestly, Zoro is not far behind. He was only behind by like
very close
200 votes, if that, less.
That's incredible.
150 basically.
Yeah.
And
right behind his captain.
Yep. And then there's Sanji as number 3. He rose up since the last time we did this. Chopper has already outranked Nami.
Oh my goodness.
Poor Usopp bringing up the rear as far as the Straw Hats. But hey, at least all those Straw Hats are the top 6. That's a nice.
Yeah. Hey.
That's something. And then, of course, we got, for only appearing a few times, Shanks still at number 7. And hey,
he has not done nothing.
Here's the reason Ace keeps popping up in the anime, because he's number 8 already from that one appearance.
I'm so happy for Bon Clay making up the top 10.
Yeah, just edging out Vivi. Who would have guessed?
Yeah, that's a respectable top 10. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, that's a good top 10. Robin bringing up with number 11.
She'll probably rise up.
Yeah, she'll definitely rise up. And I honestly, the one I'm most shocked at, as far as some weird additions, Koza, number 16.
Yeah, I sure.
Okay, Koza never left that much of an impression on me, but all right.
He was neat.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the same. Ben Beckman, I guess, left more of an impression on me personally, but there you go.
I forget. Was he the guy who shot the other guy in chapter 1, or was that like the sort of was that like the guy with the glasses?
Yeah, I think that was the big guy that always eats meat that shot the guy.
So he's just there.
Yeah, he just sort of beats people with his rifle rather than actually shoot anybody, it seems. But yeah.
Yeah.
Then Johnny. Number 18. Did not expect that.
Why?
I don't know. Then it's the fun of Panda Man beating out so many characters, even Buggy.
Probably one of like the most appearances, just short of the Straw Hats themselves.
I think so. Also, I love the wacky ones as we go along.
Yep.
Oda himself, number 25. The Kung Fu Jugons at number 27. Gaimon, that one-off, is at number 32. What the hell? How could Gaimon beat out Laboon? Come on. I love that Maria Onion Bear, that random woman that looks like the hiking bear from... she got number 35.
More popular than Django. More popular than Bellemere. What?
Yeah. And beating out Miss Valentine, who all tied... Actually, Django, Miss Valentine, and Mr. One all tied at number 38, which...
Wow.
Yeah.
A little sad.
Even somebody, the Minatomo, the carpenter, actually got number 51, so...
Yeah. Wow.
I think you can tell the silliness of the One Piece fandom for a lot of them. Like, I'm going to vote this.
a lot of the sort of like Shonen Jump character popularity polls, especially the further down you get, they tend to get really silly.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, let's get into chapter 227, Noland the Liar. And hey, we're back to Hachi. And yeah, he had that dream of the takoyaki stand. And the catfish are so grateful that he fed them all that they repay their debt by building him a ship.
It's good deeds. This thing's huge.
Yeah, it is. The trading quest continues, and my God, that's some good craftsmanship.
Yeah, wow.
So, good on you, Hachi. I love it.
He did the right thing.
He did.
Simping doesn't do anybody any good.
No, he wouldn't have gotten anything out of giving it to Octopaco. So
exactly.
You're better off. You're better off. Anyway, into it itself, everybody's trying to fix up this ship after Shoujo's attack. Oh my God.
This is the only purpose that he served in that chapter.
I guess so. And even Zoro now is saying, like, it's maybe time we got a new one. And Usopp is just like, no, we don't want to do that. And Luffy immediately says, like, no, we'll get her fixed up. Good as new. She's part of the crew. So yeah, Usopp's all appreciative. It's like, all right.
And then, of course, he breaks it.
Of course he does.
Immediately after saying that.
That's just Luffy. So they reach the place on the map where Montblanc Cricket lives, and they see his place where it's a giant castle, it looks like. But it's all an illusion. It's just plywood.
Yeah. This is I remembered this, so I saw it coming, but it's still a great gag of just like what you think it is to the immediate subversion. It's just like... This is this dinky little place on the other side of it.
Plywood and half a house.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, God. According to Robin, she doesn't know all the details, but he claims that there's a huge hoard of gold somewhere on Jaya. And that immediately gets Nami interested. She's like, Chopper, start digging.
Start digging. Just going straight for it. I mean, I love these sequences of just like the second that the Straw Hats land on a new location, everybody just kind of goes there, like all getting up to their own separate silliness.
Usopp naturally a little too afraid. Well, maybe not afraid, but just like Luffy just wandering into the house, like, what are you doing?
Right, yeah. You don't know who lives here. Just breaks into his house.
While Nami looks around outside, she finds an old storybook called Noland the Liar. And I love Usopp. That's a catchy title. I like the theme.
Yeah. There's a lot of little, like, it's just like kind of jabs at Usopp. You're like,
yeah.
Oh, the liar. Just like you.
Who knew? And actually, this brings back memories for Sanji, because he read it as a kid, even though it was published in the North Blue. And that's where we learned that he was actually born on the North Blue.
Yeah, and I kind of just like Usopp probably in here for the audience who just like, I just kind of assumed you were from the East Blue like the rest of us.
And he just says, yeah, I was raised in the East. Well, never mind that. And he just says the story's pretty famous in the North. So it's just like, some Sanji backstory we don't know. That's interesting.
He was born up north.
Yeah. But we do learn that it's a children's tale, but it's actually true. And basically the tale of Noland the Liar, and I love this artwork shift.
Yeah,
the
it's
thicker
really
lines, cool. It's so...
It really feels like a storybook.
Yeah, it's great.
The font they chose for it's kind of unreadable, so I was like, I really had to get in there. And,
yeah, it's a bit cursive-y, so you just kind of go with it. But yeah, more than 400 years ago, there was a man named Montblanc Noland, who was an explorer, and his adventures, his stories about his adventures were so amazing that nobody could actually believe them. And then he returned one day to the king with his travels, and he says, I found a mountain of gold on an island in the vast sea. So the king took 2,000 soldiers and went with Noland to verify the claim. Also, small detail, love that the king's castle is the same as what Montblanc Cricket sets up for his
built it after.
Plywood. Yeah. So they set upon the great ocean, and they were buffeted by tempest and attacked by sea monsters. And by the time they actually reached the island, only the king, Noland, and 100 soldiers remained. Holy crap.
Wow.
But there were no mountains of gold. It was only a jungle. So because of this lie, Noland was sentenced to death. And before he died, his last words were, I know the mountain of gold must have sank into the sea. And the others were all just flabbergasted. So no one believed Noland anymore, but he stuck to his lies to the very end.
What a fable.
Yeah.
Like, is this what people are telling, like, bedtime stories to their kids in the One Piece world?
About this liar who led the king on a suicide mission, basically, and he just kept lying until the very end.
And then we killed him.
Then we killed him. Like, I don't know if there's a moral in this.
Lying, you will die.
Yeah, I guess so. But it turns out Bellamy is aware of this story as well. And so is Sarkis, as they're all from the North Blue. And it's very common there. So they're just laughing about the fact that it turns out that the story took place on Jaya.
Yeah, that's what a coincidence.
Yeah, who knew? So it turns out a descendant of Noland the Liar is the one searching for the gold 400 years later. So apparently he's trying to redeem an ancestor who's branded a liar. And Bellamy, of course, finds this absolutely...
It's hilarious.
Hilarious. Because everything to him is hilarious.
Everybody point and laugh.
I love this little, again, digs, where Nami says, sadly, the liar died without ever becoming a brave warrior of the sea, while looking at Usopp.
Yeah, I'm just like...
It's like, don't add your own commentary. But meanwhile, in the background, Luffy gets pulled into the water.
Yeah, which is not good.
No, definitely not good. And all of a sudden, this guy shows up from the water saying that, well, actually, not this guy. It's Cricket.
Yeah, of course.
I love how he's referred to as the last boss of the Monkey Mountain Allied Force.
Yeah, it was like, I think, do they mean last as in previous or last as in, he's the last boss?
I took it as, he's the last boss. But
yeah, I thought so too. But I was like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm. And he actually takes on Sanji, and honestly, seems
and he's
like
kind of pretty even. Really fight. Even. Yeah. Surprisingly, I remember this character. I remember Cricket. I did not remember that he kind of gave Sanji a little bit of a run for his money here.
Yeah, and honestly, he's kind of awesome. Like, I only remember just like an old man with the monkeys. That's all I remember from the first time I read this. I forgot that Cricket's kind of jacked.
Yeah, exactly. And it's cool because, I mean, he's like, at first you think he uses kicks like Sanji, but then, like, just the way they're kind of able to sort of, he kind of does like this forward palm strike thing that Sanji kind of catches with his foot. And then he just kind of busts out the Glock.
Yeah, tries to shoot Sanji in the face, but thankfully he missed. Zoro goes to get involved. And the other thing I really liked about this is just the play on expectations. Like, you're thinking the descendant of Noland, and what he
probably just like some homely old man. Yeah,
we saw this goofy looking fellow, and all of a sudden we see Cricket, and he's like, Jesus.
Yeah, shows up first thing, ready for a kill.
It's so rough that Zoro goes to get involved, but all of a sudden Cricket just sort of keels over because Usopp was the one that ran in to catch Luffy from falling into the water. Turns out that thanks to Dr. Chopper being here, he has the bends, condition of divers. So he helpfully explains that when a diver comes out of the deep water too quickly, the sudden decompression causes air bubbles to form in the blood and tissue. These bubbles expand and cause problems in the vascular system, muscles, and joints. And Luffy just says, it must be unnatural.
Like, wait.
Apparently, the man's been diving day after day without giving his body time to decompress.
Yeah, I feel like you already sort of know where it's going, where, like, that is enough information to know that he's been diving a lot,
Yeah, he's been diving a lot, and then we end on the chapter on this picture of him with Masira and Shoujo looking very happy.
Yeah.
But also with the ominous, in some cases, the bends can be fatal. It's like, oh no. But we do have an SBS where we get the birthday for Nico Robin, thanks to the suggestion of, I guess, an editor. because she's Nico Robin. It's Japanese for February 6th, 2/6. So there you go.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Robin's
Which
birthday.
Is this no, it's not the first one we've had of that, but it is going to continue to be a trend of people writing in just like, I think this character should be this birthday based on a Japanese number pun. And Oda just is like, yep, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. Works for me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get to chapter 228. Montblanc Cricket, the last boss of the Monkey Mountain Allied Force. I feel like I read that already. But hey, it turns out you were right. This is the end of Hachi's tale. 30 chapters, 30 volumes, I guess. The grand opening of Takoyaki 8, an octopus fritter shop on the high seas.
I'm so proud of him.
He gets to live out his childhood dreams. That's it's cute and wholesome. This was a really good cover story. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. We get some fun new characters. You got a mermaid, you got this starfish whose name I could still not remember. Hachi learning to be a better person. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's just he learns a lesson. Like, it's a good. I feel like Oda might be getting better at these.
Yeah.
And just sort of like establishing what kinds of stories he wants to tell with them.
Mm-hmm. I am quite curious who's going to be next.
Yep, I got no clue.
No, I'm lost at this point. But yeah, we get into the chapter itself, and yeah, we saw that these three were all friends, and sure enough, here's Masira and Shoujo showing up, and they're too big for the door.
Boss.
Yeah. Yeah, they got boss here, and just sort of catch them all. And they're ready to fight. And it's like, hey, what have you done to the boss? It's like, no, we're giving him medical treatment, so go away. And it's like, no, he won't listen to reason. Oh, that's so nice of you. Oh, they listen to reason.
They listen to reason. Oh no, they listen to reason. The beginning of what is to be just like some, as whatever as I am about these characters, they're sort of their interactions with Luffy in particular, I think are really fun.
Yeah, I when they're friends, they're endearing, but when they're enemies, it's like, okay, I got their shtick.
Yeah, exactly.
And thankfully, from this point on, they're friends, especially because, as you said, Luffy just gets along really well with them.
I think it might be Zoro in a tiny little panel off to the side. He was like, they all have monkey brains.
Yeah. I also love, it's like, but how'd you manage to beat a little guy like you manage to beat this big lug? Oh, it was easy. You could do it. Really? Sure. And he gives it a try and sends him flying.
he just kicks him.
It's like, oh, really?
Oh my God. They're just charmingly dumb.
Mm-hmm. I'm quite curious why Cricket has a tattoo. It says maroon, but that looks like a macaron. I mean, I guess maybe that's the origin of his like why he's called that. I don't know.
Maybe.
So, yeah, I don't know. He finally wakes up. He apologizes for attacking, and Luffy immediately says, we want to go to the island in the sky. How do we get there? And of course, he starts laughing at them.
And Nami is not having it.
No, she is done.
It's like, we just healed him. He's still recovering.
That's when Cricket starts reflecting. It's like, well, there was one man who said it did, but he went down in history as a liar, and his descendants have been the objects of ridicule ever since. Again,
Luffy just like
looking immediately at
is
Usopp.
You?
Of course, it's time to learn that he's a descendant, and he's like, oh, it's so distant, I probably don't even have a drop of his blood in me. But the Montblanc family was driven off and forced to live in shame, and even to this day, we're still ridiculed. But nobody in the family ever held it against him because we all know that he wasn't a liar.
Oh ho 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 ho! We're getting the subversion. I just like introducing the story and then kind of getting like oh no, here's the other perspective on it.
It's like, hey, he was grinning like an idiot in the story, but he actually died with tears rolling down his cheeks. The island they reached was definitely Jaya. It's the same island he said held the ruins of the city of gold. And he theorized that the ancient ruins sank into the sea due to the shifting of the Earth's crust. But everyone thought it was out of desperation, so he was put to death as everyone laughed at him. That is just brutal.
It's brutal. Yeah, that's sad.
The thing is, they're laughing at him when 1,900 of their men died on the way here.
Right, like I don't know, joke's on you. Like,
yeah.
I sent I led most of these people to death.
Yeah.
I do love, I think the sort of natural assumption, that Usopp's got here, so in order to clear the Montblanc name, you've been diving down to the ocean floor in search of the city of gold. And of course, he's just, don't be ridiculous, just
pointing a gun at Usopp. I was like, actually shooting at him. He has a bullet hole above Usopp's head.
Oh,
it's just like, no.
He's so offended.
Yeah. I don't care if he was telling the truth. I don't care if he was a great explorer. None of that matters. Because of that fool's blood in my veins, I was made fun of all throughout my childhood. That's how I grew up. So in order to restore the family honor, there has been countless Montblancs that have gone to sea, and all of them have disappeared without a trace. So I was ashamed of my family, and I left home to become a pirate. 10 years ago, my ship happened to land on this island after an adventure, and ironically, me being the one who hated him most was the one who found him. So he's like, all right, we're settling this, and decided to just stay there.
He's way cooler than I remember.
Right? Like, Cricket is freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's just I do love that it's not just sort of like a typical, oh, I'm the descendant, so I have to solve the mystery once and for all. It's sort of there's an edge of resentment to it all, and he's just kind of resigned to his fate.
Yeah, and it's very different because we've met a lot of characters with stories like this in One Piece where it would have been like, oh, you want to redeem yourself, and Oda finds a way to twist it.
Yeah. And it's just the way that he says it's a battle with the man who ruined his life.
So Luffy asked the natural next question, so what's with the monkeys? And so there must be a moving tale about men who risked their lives in the ocean's depths behind it. No, they're just fans of the story.
They're just fans.
They're fanboys. They came here uninvited, convinced that Noland's goal was real, and they decided to just hang around and help.
That's honestly so adorable.
It really is. And I like the fact that they're both really good at salvage, which also ties into...
It makes sense. It all comes together.
It's really good because, as he points out, the sea around here is really deep. So when you're diving in the dark and cold water, the loneliness gets intense. They kind of saved him. It's
sweet.
His crew. It's his crew. His actual crew didn't even stick around. These two did.
Yeah, seriously.
And of course, Usopp's immediately touched.
The bravery. Yeah.
It's like, can lift a man's sad heart. And all Luffy says is, I'm tired of monkey stories. I want to go to the Sky Island.
Luffy feels like such a child in this section where he's just like, I don't care about any of this. I want to go to the sky. Mm-hmm. That is all that matters here.
Yep. And he's like, you don't get it, do you? You'll just become a laughing stock if you like me if you believe on this. But here you go. He's like, here's the last logbook of Noland, where he didn't actually go to the Sky Island. He didn't say he actually went, but there is a passage here. And we get some actual years for One Piece, where the age of Kaien, 1120, where they followed it, and they got a hold of an unusual item from a merchant, a one-man boat called a waver, which one rides like a ski. The strange vessel can even sail on windless days by creating its own wind, but there's a knack to operating it that I have not been able to master. But the crew are enjoying it now. And it's like, well, that's interesting.
We're finally getting a piece of, like, I don't know, they're discovering artifacts.
Yes.
They're kind of piecing it together. I love seeing this kind of slowly, come together after, you get little bits and pieces of hints.
Yeah, and there's definitely bits here that, like, tie into things we've already seen, and it's pretty great. But the power to run the vessel only exists on the Sky Islands, and he's heard that there's many things with special properties up there. And he's like, speaking of Sky Islands, a fellow explorer once showed me a living skyfish. So it's, I wish to someday visit it, and just like, hey, I might not have gone myself, but I've talked with people who have, and I have artifacts that prove it exists. And that just excites everybody.
Yes.
And they're all cheering, and
it's like our first evidence that, like, there's something here.
This
isn't all just like make believe.
I love this moment where Cricket just sort of leaves as they're celebrating, and the monkeys ask if he's okay, and he's like, well, do you like these people? It's like, why do you ask? And he's like, well, these pirates are determined to go to the Sky Island, but there's only one way to get there. And they're like, hey, they'll be killed instantly.
Yeah. Yep.
He's like, that's why I'm asking, because it'll be up to us to help them get there. And that's so exciting.
It really is, because we've just, I don't know, we're coming across some really helpful characters here now, and this is the part that had me excited for what was coming next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just building up that lore, building up these connections, and just it's cool.
It is cool.
You were talking before we got this whole thing started about all the steps, and we're getting to more steps as we go along here, but the steps to this adventure is much more than just follow the log pose.
Yeah. Like, I would argue, I can't think of a single other section in One Piece that has just the backstory and the lore is so tied to, like, where we're trying to go, and we're just, like, trying to get all these little breadcrumbs. And it is really exciting to see play out.
Absolutely. Let's get to the SBS. Nothing too major other than, again, I love when Oda's like, somebody points out a mistake he made.
It's like, no, I didn't.
No, I didn't. This is how it works. Like when Usopp hits his middle finger, his index finger swells up instead because of the way a balloon works. Believe me. objectively silly is how it all just goes. But let's go ahead and get to chapter 229. Let's eat. And I don't think we'll be commenting on these cover stories as much, because we're just getting back to the individualized ones with each of the crewmates with interacting with the animals.
Yeah, they're all fun and cute.
Yeah, that's all it comes down to. So it's time to learn all the Cricket knows about Sky Island. So it's up to them to believe whether they believe it or not. And Luffy immediately says, "Yeah, I believe it."
No, just all right. Wait before you just accept everything you hear. I love that they're all kind of gathered around a little tree stump. Chopper looking adorable as always. Just they're all like they're ready to hear a story.
Yeah, it's always those four. Like I think Sanji's off cooking, Zoro's sleeping, and
yep.
I don't know what Robin's doing right now, but she's around.
That tracks.
Mm-hmm. So Cricket goes over this, basically saying that there's a phenomenon where in the middle of the day, night suddenly falls on one part of the sea. And they're like, oh, yeah, that happened to us.
Yeah, those big shadowy giants.
Yeah, like their origins a mystery, so we'll just leave them out of it. But the sudden night is actually the shadow of a dense mass of clouds. It's called the Imperio-Cumulus, an emperor cloud. Because Nami's immediately like, oh, you mean this thing? It's like, I can't do that. It's like, shut up, listen.
Yeah, they interrupt him a whole lot just with their stupid antics, which it's more entertaining than just dropping. Like, this is the exposition part of the story, but as always, Oda finds a way to make it fun and completely in character.
Oh, yeah. Plus, it's just fascinating, like, to come up with
really
these ideas. Because the strange thing about this is that the Emperor cloud has remained unchanged for thousands of years because it's like a petrified cloud. It does not rain, so it doesn't lose its mass. But, of course, he's only telling what he's heard. That's where they'll find it. That's their best chance. As soon as they hear that, it's like, all right, wake up, let's go. It's like, we don't know how to get there yet.
Yeah.
And, of course, she beats him up.
Yes,
yes. Luffy looks more beaten up from Nami than he did from Bellamy.
Yeah. Really, I would believe that she is the more fierce of the two.
Oh, yeah. So here's how it actually works. The knock-up stream, which we did hear about before. They have to use the knock-up stream to let it carry them into the sky. So it's, as Nami says, it's an ocean current that just goes up into the air by an ocean current. And she's like, well, won't it just smash us back up against the ocean? So that's what I've heard at this point. And she's like, yes, that's usually what happens. But the critical thing is the timing of it. Also, the fact that this is a very violent experience. It is basically catastrophic and something you want to avoid normally.
I love the idea that, like, this is just a thing that happens out in the sea, that you could just get, like, shot up by an ocean current and then come crashing down and die. And, like, that's just how it works.
Yeah, that's the grand line. It's dangerous. It's weird. Things happen.
Yep. But I imagine there are no short order of unlucky vessels that are just like, what happened?
Yeah, it's like, what? This is not good. We do get a little explanation of like geothermal heat and all that stuff. But yeah, it's so massive that for a minute, the sea rises into the air. That is a massive amount of time for something like that.
Yes.
But it's a little tricky to pin down because the coordinates change each time, but it happens 5 times a month. But it's just like how do we predict this? The thing is, we have to have 2 things happen at once. We have to have this knock-up stream happen that blasts up there. We have to survive the knock-up stream. And then we have to actually land on this Imperio-Cumulus.
Yes.
That's a lot of things coming together.
And even, Usopp points out, like, he's trying to weasel out, like, all right, let's just, like, forget about this whole Skypiea thing. Only a lucky guy would have a chance of making it. And then, Luffy just, of course, like, we'll be fine.
I mean, Luffy is a lucky guy.
He is.
He proved that with the apple last time.
And he's getting struck by lightning.
Right.
Back in Logtown.
And as Usopp points out, like, yeah, the Going Merry would not survive this. It would just smash it up. And you hear the creak from it. It's like, oh, that poor thing.
Yeah. Yep.
But Cricket's like, yeah, he's right. It would happen. But your ship can be reinforced. And we can have the Monkey Brothers help you out. I love that I just poke out of the window from the.
Yeah, like yeah,
we'd help. And as Nami points out, it's like, hey, we can only stay on this island for one more day. Any longer than that, and the log post will lock onto the next island. So we don't have time. So Usopp's like, oh, right, we can't actually do this life-threatening thing. I'm much happier about this. So when will the Knockup Stream and the Emperor Cloud come together next? In a few days, months, years? And Cricket says, oh, tomorrow at noon.
Tomorrow. Yep. So convenient.
Yes, very convenient, which actually kind of sets Usopp off.
Yeah, I loved this.
Yeah, he's like, no way. You're lying. The coincidence is just too unbelievable. And why are you being so helpful? Luffy tries to stop and he's like, no, shut up. You're telling me that the only time we can go to the legendary Sky Island is tomorrow, and you're even willing to fix the ship and help us get there. That's way too convenient. So what's your game? You're a descendant of Noland the Liar, so I don't trust you. And that's something coming from Usopp.
It really is. That like, and part of it is definitely just horrifying existential fear.
Yeah.
But he has a point. And it is like, I don't know. It's the kind of contrivance that I think you can get away with when it is just sort of like I like that they are acknowledging this is lining up way too conveniently.
Right. And all Cricket says is, well, whenever the daytime night is spotted in Masira's territory, the Emperor Cloud appears the next day in the southern sky. So looking at the rotation of the monthly explosions, the Knockup Stream is bound to erupt tomorrow, and it will occur just south of here. So it's like, it's not certainty, but the odds are good.
Yep.
And I like how it's like, he spent 10 years here. Of course he knows all this.
He knows. Yeah, absolutely.
Especially with it happening 5 times a month. Like I can buy that he knows this stuff.
Yeah. And just, I love how quickly, like, you know, he's like, I'm glad I got to meet you fools. Like, you know, he sees that they're dreamers just like he is, you know, even if he doesn't want to admit it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's such a case. It's such a unique bond that they form in this case. And I appreciate it so much. It's one of those things like, okay, I believe that he can do it, and it just so happens like it's Luffy. His luck is incredible. So of course, he wants to go there. He's going to get to go there. That's all it really comes down to. This whole nice response from Cricket defeats Usopp, and he's like, "Am I just a coward?"
Yep.
And Nami's like, "Yep, an idiot too, but I understand how you feel. So go apologize." And he just goes like to tearfully apologize. Pretty great. And then just like it gets to be night, and they're partying it up. You know, the wild times with this group. It's
yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's Cricket's hitting on Nami, and Sanji's trying to keep him away. Meanwhile, Robin is just sort of quietly reading the book and gets to the last page, and that's when Cricket shows up and kind of catches her off guard.
Yeah, I was surprised that like she, you know, just has like a little sweat drop, but that is. And she, you know, there's a flitch sound effect, but that is like more surprise than I thought. That she would ever have, which is sort of like a very slight, like
yeah, like huh, saying I saw the gold in the Skull's right eye. That tear-blotted sentence was the last thing Nolan wrote, and I still don't know what it means. It's the name of the lost city, omen of death.
More mysteries.
There's no explanation, but that's why we dive. We see our dreams at the bottom of the sea. And they're like, yeah, that's right. We're going to fly. We're going to do it. We end the chapter with Bellamy spotting the castle, their home.
Oh, boy.
And he's like, dream-seeking fools don't deserve gold bullion. And it's like, that's what we're getting into here.
I love, like, it's not even, it's like even the hint of gold is enough. Like, oh, here comes Bellamy.
Uh-huh. He's just like, it's like, it's a dreamer who has gold. Yeah, I'm all in on this.
I've come here to point and laugh at you.
Yes. But let's go ahead and get to our last chapter, 230, Pursue the South Bird. We have Cricket just recounting a lot of this stuff. It's like, arrived in Jaya. When we got to the island, we heard the strange cries of a jungle bird and the tolling of a giant bell. The sound of that giant bell made of pure gold resonated as if to celebrate the untold riches of the ancient city. Throughout these vast seas over countless generations, a great civilization blossomed. And it's just like, more of this description. It's just like, it is kind of awe-inspiring to just hear this stuff. And
it is, yeah.
Like, this realized that if he's not if he's not a liar, and we seem to have evidence, it seems like it's actually true. And he even has some evidence where he finds, like, here's a bell of pure gold that, well, kind of, it's a bell-shaped ingot. Yeah. And they found a few things that does point to it.
And I like that, Robin points out, it proves that there was a civilization in this region once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that archaeologist bent going for her once more. And the strange bird, they get a gold statue of that, points in the right direction, it's holding a bell, and they're like, wonder if they're ancient symbols and stuff like that. So it's just, he begins explaining to them, like, oh yeah, this bird, it's the South bird, still found on the island. And it just has a strange cry. And speaking of the South bird, ancient mariners wrote of it. And it's like, oh crap!
Yep. I feel like it's a very natural thing too, to, like, you're talking about something and then it just sort of triggers a memory. Like, oh no!
Because as he points out, and honestly, it slipped my mind as well, they got to go south to get to the knockup stream in order to get launched up. But they're on the Grand Line. They can't just go south. They always have to follow the log post, which never points in any actual direction. Yep. So they have to rely on this South bird because it just, of all the animals, has the innate sense of direction to show at all times. So if they're going to actually make it to the knockup stream, they need this one last thing, this South bird.
They're going out on one last adventure here. On this part.
so now they got to go out in the middle of the night to do this, and we find out they also didn't actually work on their ship. They decided to party before getting any work done.
Now that's relatable. So of course, it can't go entirely to plan. So we're in that kind of like, night before the exam kind of mode.
Right. And it also is like, oh, we ended with Bellamy finding this, and we have the Straw Hats conveniently away. And we just introduced a bunch of gold. Oh, I know where this is going.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So all we know is that it has a weird cry, and it looks like that gold bird. So we'll know it when we hear it. And we just hear this, Joe. It's like, oh, well, there's that weird cry. So
that's it.
Yep. They split up and try to catch it, and the first team is Sanji, Usopp, and Nami.
I love it when they all split into different groups like this.
And there's even a fun bit here where, one, Usopp's trying to call the bird by doing the Joe, and they confuse them, so it gets beat up. But then Nami gets a giant spider on her, and she freaks out, and our resident coward is okay with bugs. He's like, it's only a spider. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, it's cute. He says he used to play when he was a kid. Like, this is sort of the the one thing that he can handle.
And Sanji can't. He hates creepy crawlers. So he's like, no, this is no. And then
I love that he was just like, I'll protect you, Nami, and he's right next to her, just freaking out.
It's a fun shift on the dynamic, where especially because of those fear faces when they see the tree covered with moths and centipedes, and like, God.
Yeah. It really, you very rarely get to see the other characters scared. Usopp's like, yeah, this is fine. He's in his comfort zone.
And the other two, the team number 2 is Zoro and Robin.
I love just casually, I hear screaming. Ignore it.
And she's just like, you don't have to kill those centipedes. And it's like, don't lecture me. It's their fault for challenging me.
Challenging? What are you... Zoro, what are you doing?
I don't know. And he's like, I still don't trust you, so don't forget it. She's like, but that's the path we just came from, which is just like, thank God he went with somebody.
Yes. Don't leave Zoro alone.
She's keeping an eye on him. But our final team, and I don't know about this team makeup, I'll be honest, but Luffy and Chopper, where they're more concerned about catching beetles.
Yes, I feel like this is the sort of like kind of the cliche Japanese kid hobby is knowing way too much about beetles.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, it gave us Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the origin of Pokemon, so there you go. But yeah, Luffy's all about catching these beetles, but sure enough, the South bird is there, just going Joe.
Yes, it looks so intimidating.
It really does.
Just all the lines on it.
Kind of a fun design.
Yeah,
but it knocks a beehive right into them, and they get stung all over, and just like they're still getting attacked. I think another beehive lands next to them.
Yeah, he drops another one as soon as they're done.
And thankfully, with Chopper there to get to translate and to get this like devilish smirk on him. It's like, whoever invades this jungle will die. It's like, oh no.
God, it's so this. I don't remember this forest section lasting that long, but God, it is so fun.
It's long enough for them to be away. I don't know exactly how they solve it, but it's a fun little excursion. While again, they're away, so of course, here's Bellamy. And he's like, well, it's so much more rewarding to steal someone's treasure when they've suffered a lot to get in the first place. And yep.
So I don't remember what happens, but I have a good feeling that Mashira and Shoujo are gonna job super hard.
Yeah.
I don't know, because they look ready for a fight, and I'm just like, oh no.
Yeah, and both of their bounties are like in the mid 30s, like 36, 35, around there. And Bellamy is 55, so he's not weak, that's for sure.
Yeah, certainly.
But yeah, we know how this is gonna go. Two things from the SBS, though. One, there was a question on how Mr. 3 was floating in the water when he after
which is a good catch.
Yeah, good catch. I think we wondered that as well. But it just turns out there's a big piece of floating wood right underneath, and they allowed him to float.
Sure.
Yep. It's hey, do you doubt the Flotus Stretchington?
No, I would never.
Oh, okay. Good man. And one, we actually get an origin of Bellamy's name. He's actually named after the English pirate Samuel Black Sam Bellamy. He was a notorious, very talkative pirate. So
yeah, I'd love every now and again a reader will point that out that like a lot of the pirates are actually inspired by real life pirates.
It's perfect.
Yes.
So yeah, a pretty solid set of chapters this week.
There was a lot to cover.
A lot of backstory, a lot of exposition, but it remained fun.
It is still really, really fun.
It's not fun in the same way as the last set of chapters where we're just all hyped. This is definitely sort of a coming down kind of moment.
Yeah.
But also kind of getting you excited for the possibilities of this Sky Island and what they're doing.
Yeah, this whole section of the story, like I said before, it's all just like nuggets of information. You're just getting little bits of story and little bits of like just trying to figure out how to get from point A to point B. And I am eating it all up. I've forgotten how much Jaya is just a blast. Mm-hmm. It really is.
Yeah, and honestly, there's not much left.
Yeah, we're almost done.
We're almost done with Jaya. So I'll say it now. I am so excited for next week.
Yeah, next week's going to be good.
Oh, goodness. But with that, I believe we've said all we've wanted to say about chapters 226 to 230 of One Piece. Thank you so much for listening, and you can find more of my ramblings and stream VODs over at BitNerd Games on YouTube or BitNerd with an underscore at the end on Twitter. And Brandon, where can everyone find you at?
I'm at Brandon Bovia on Twitter, talking about anime, manga, games, and my job. Not much to shill. Red Hood came out, go buy it. Dragon Ball, coming out, go buy it, go read it. I did want to mention this at the top of the show, and I just remembered now that we got an announcement. There's going to be a demo for One Piece Odyssey.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That'll be coming out on, I want to say January 10th, like a couple days before the game comes out. And so I've already been doing like a full playthrough of that game on stream, just, since I'm here doing the podcast every week. So I might be doing the demo. I might stream the demo as well, just to get a taste of what that game is like.
Yeah, definitely give it a look. We're both kind of interested in that, although we did confirm that I really can't play it because it does go beyond what I've read.
Yeah, I had a feeling it would.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to me how coy they've been with it, though, because we really didn't know how far they would go for the longest time. Mm-hmm. But the marketing has finally, there was just a little bit where I'm like, okay, yep, all right, that confirms it. Like, Derek, you will play this game when we're caught up.
Depending on how things go, if we run out of chapters, we could just toss in that game in particular.
Yeah, that's true.
And see what we think, because it is an original story, or maybe just I don't know. We'll see what people say. I don't know.
Yeah, I will be sure to talk about it on this podcast in some form.
Sounds good to me. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. And if you'd like to help us out more, you can support the podcast over at patreon.com/Derek Bittner. That's DERRICKBITNER to listen to the next episode 3 days early. And make sure to return next time as we discuss chapters 231 to 235 of One Piece for our 50th episode. Good set of chapters for that. So until then,
Yes.
my friends, bye.
Remember to take life one piece at a time.
Hey, old-timer! Are you all right?
They come to kill us!
What in the world are you people doing here? And just what are you doing to our friend?
We're trying to help, so I suggest you either lend us a hand or find someone else to bother.
Don't antagonize them, Luffy! You know what they're capable of! And now there's 2 of those savages to deal with! Everyone jump out the windows and run away!
Thank you, guys!
What did they say?